Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You could find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, Email Revealer, or you just contact me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Our archives are free at Spreaker.com. And do a live show there Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. There's a chat room. You can get an email notification when there's new content. I play repeats every night. So Spreaker is a good place to keep in contact with me for free. And if you go to Spreaker and you look up Laila Mickelwait, you can find our previous show we've done with Laila Mickelwait. That's spelled LailaMickelwait. You can find her at LailaMickelwait.com. You can find her at Laila Mickelwait on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. TraffickingHubPetition.com. That's where you want to go to sign a petition to help put an end to all this stuff. And then Justice Defense Fund, justicedefensefund.org is where you can go and help support this work. Laila Mickelwait, are you there?
Hi, yes. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Before we get into who is Laila Mickelwait, did I butcher this traffickinghubpetition.com?
No, that's exactly right. Traffickinghubpetition.com. That's where you can join over 2.3 million people from every country in the world to sign the petition to shut down PornHub and to hold its executives accountable for globally distributing, monetizing, commercializing a mass sexual crime that includes child abuse, rape, sex trafficking, and other forms of criminal non-consensual content. And then correct that justicedefensefund.org is the organization I founded to support all of this work. And you can go there to learn more and also be able to support.
Okay, but let's just stop 1 second here. Did you just say that there's already 2 million signatures on this petition?
Yes, there are 2.3. We're on our way to 2.5 now, million signatures from people in every single country in the world so far.
And well, then how many do we need? That's not enough?
Well, the goal is 2.5 right now. I mean, it can just go on and on. But at 2.5, I've decided that what I want to do is print out this petition. It's going to be, I can't even imagine the stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of paper that would take up printing the signatures on this petition and roll all of that into Congress, go visit members of Congress and the Senate in the House and ask why they haven't done anything to put these people behind bars and implement policy to stop this from happening in the future. It's just gotten to be too much, and there's too many people who are outraged about this all over the world and want something to be done. So that's my plan.
Yeah, maybe we can print it out on bricks and rocks and drop it from helicopters around to a few choice locations, and maybe that'll get
somebody did a calculation about how it would be like, I don't know, a mile or more or something like that if you printed those out and actually laid them out. It's a lot of signatures, but I think that we need more. I mean, the more the better. It just shows that there's mass outrage about this, and I mean, in comparison to the number of people who are visiting PornHub, I mean, we think 2.3 million is a lot. It is, but 130 million people in 2020 were visiting PornHub every day.
Wow.
And they had 47 billion visits to the site, that year. So we need more people on our side outraged about this than they have as consumers.
Well, let's back up just a little bit. Who is Laila Mickelwait, and what has made you so passionate about this topic of Pornhub and the abuse going on of children? There's literal abuse of children, recorded abuse of children going on Pornhub right this very second. So what is Laila Mickelwait? Who is she? And what caused you to devote so much of your life to this?
Sure. Well, I have been focused on this issue of sex trafficking. It's been about 15 years now that I've been working on this fight. And, a number of years ago, I think now probably about 10 years ago, I started to notice a trend where sex trafficking wasn't just happening offline, but it was being recorded, filmed child abuse. So anytime a non-consensual sex act that's induced by force, fraud, coercion, or if it involves a child, and if that's commercialized, so if there's something of value that is given or received for that sex act, then that is an act of trafficking. And so I began to understand that child sexual abuse, rape, and other forms of non-consensual sex that is commercialized online on these big porn sites is also an act of trafficking. And so I began to investigate this issue, and one night in early 2020, I tested the upload system of PornHub for myself, and that was after I had read some really horrifying news stories about victims who had ended up on the site. And I wondered to myself, how did this happen? Because at the time, Pornhub was the largest and most popular porn site in the world. Like I said, it had 130 million visits a day, 47 billion visits a year, enough content uploaded to the site every year that it would take 169 years to watch if you watch those videos back to back. They also, at the time, it was the 10th most visited website across the internet. So that's not just porn site, that's website across the internet. More visits than Amazon, Netflix, Yahoo. Researchers named Pornhub the third most influential tech company on global society behind Facebook and Google. So this is a massive, massive site, very popular site. And they had spent years and multiple millions of dollars with these massive PR campaigns through this arm of the company they called Pornhub Cares. And what they would do is they would do like these PR campaigns to save the trees and save the oceans and save the giant pandas and raise money for breast cancer awareness and put all this out in the news to make people think that they actually cared about trust and health and safety. But when I tested the site back in 2020, I found out that all it took to upload a sex video, a homemade user-generated sex video, and I didn't upload a sex video. I uploaded, filmed my dark room and my keyboard and whatnot and uploaded it, but I tested it and found out all it took was an email address. So they weren't verifying ID. They weren't verifying consent of those in the videos. And as a result, the site has become infested with videos of real sexual crime, including child abuse and rape. And to this day, so that was in 2020, to this day, they still don't verify the age and the consent of the millions of people who are in the free and ad revenue generating videos on the site, which is most of the site, because this is a YouTube of porn. This is free porn. This is user generated porn primarily. So that's kind of how I found out about this and originally started to sound the alarm in 2020. And we've come a long way. It's been an interesting and difficult fight so far, but we're still fighting for justice for victims and for accountability for Pornhub and its executives. So, yeah.
I could just imagine if they've got the money to throw at pandas and stuff like that, panda charities, so-called, that they must have their own lobbyists on Capitol Hill then, right?
I'm sure. In the emails that we just recently were uncovered in discovery in a major child sex trafficking lawsuit, class action lawsuit in California, in the legal discovery, the executive and CEO had talked about lobbyists that they were actually hiring in Canada to be speaking with the government on their behalf. So because they are headquartered in Canada, they have offices all over the world. So, Pornhub is owned by a parent company that is called MindGeek, and they were called MindGeek until a few weeks ago when they got rebranded to the name ILO, which they are trying to kind of whitewash this history, whitewash what's happened. They were bought by a private equity firm, hastily concocted in the British Virgin Islands with offices in Canada, run by criminal defense attorneys. Nobody knows the money behind it. Nobody knows the people behind it, really. And they call themselves Ethical Capital Partners. So they're trying to kind of erase what's happened because they've become so toxic, because they've become, just infamous now for being infested with crime. And so they're trying to rebrand, but
it looks like asset protection too. Do they have pending settlements out there in the horizon?
One of them has settled. So there's a case on behalf of 50 trafficked women in California who they were forced, defrauded, and coerced into sex videos, and those were uploaded to one of Pornhub's most popular partner channels called Girls Do Porn. And the ringleader of this sex trafficking operation was actually put on the FBI's 10 most wanted list because he actually fled the country. And finally, they found him last Christmas. It was Christmas Eve, and he had been, missing for years. And they finally found him on Christmas Eve last year. But those women not only sued Girls Do Porn, and the ringleaders of that were all put in prison, but they sued Pornhub, and Pornhub ended up arranging a settlement with them for an undisclosed amount. But so far, since 2020, there's 8 lawsuits filed across the U.S. and Canada on behalf of almost 200 victims. So there's lots of pending litigation against them right now. So I'm sure they're taking all that into consideration.
Yeah, that would make sense. And what I don't understand, though, is I can understand Pornhub. They're making money from this. They have advertising and all kind of links you can click to sign up for chats and things, right? And even devices you could purchase from them. What motivates, like these sex traffickers, what would motivate this particular group you mentioned with Girl Hub, I think it was called Porn Girls, what would motivate them to upload these crimes, evidence of their crimes to Pornhub?
Well, there's a few ways that people can earn profits from uploading to Pornhub, but interestingly, most of the content on Pornhub is free. Right. It's like a YouTube of porn, where this is social currency. This is for likes and views and comments and clicks that people mostly upload to Pornhub. Some of the people who upload to Pornhub do that to earn money, and they can earn ad revenue, and they can earn pay to download revenue if they kind of put the videos behind a paywall and pay to download that content. And then content partners can advertise their other websites off of Pornhub. So watch this video, but come watch more videos over here on this other site, those kinds of things. So those are the ways that happens. But the biggest profiteers, the ones that are making the money off of this content, is Pornhub and its parent company, MindGeek/ILO. And they sell 4.6 billion ad impressions on that content every day. So that's primarily how they make their money. And interestingly, and thankfully, after years of putting pressure on MasterCard, Visa, and Discover, they finally cut all ties with Pornhub, including their ad processing for ads on the site in August of 2022. So they're no longer able to actually use those cards on Pornhub anymore. Okay, so Visa and MasterCard have withdrawn their merchant processing, but now what about PayPal? What about those other? PayPal did so as well. So PayPal withdrew in late 2019, actually. They were the first payment processors to withdraw after the London Sunday Times put out their investigation that they had found children on Pornhub as young as 3 years old in minutes. They found dozens of videos of illegal content on the site. And at that time, PayPal said, we're out. We're not involved in this anymore. So they were out. But then it took another 3 years to get, or 2 years to get Visa, MasterCard, and Discover to cut all ties. So they cut some ties in December of 2020 after the New York Times did an explosive.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house. including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
Investigation and expose called The Children of PornHub that featured stories of victims who were children who were exploited on the site, and that sent shockwaves around the world. And within days, the pressure was on, and Visa, MasterCard, and Discover said they're cutting ties, but they only cut ties with public-facing transactions at that time, which was premium subscriptions and other ways they monetize in the public-facing side of things. But they continued with the advertising, and that's how they made most of their money, was advertising. So it took another 2 years of pressure to finally get them, and a lawsuit against Visa. So there's a major lawsuit against them, against PornHub and Visa in California on behalf of a victim by the name of Serena Flatus and 33 other women, half of whom were children when they were abused on PornHub. And they not only sued PornHub, but they sued Visa. They sued the owners by name individually. They sued the investment company behind the company, and they used RICO for racketeering, child pornography laws, sex trafficking. So it's a big lawsuit, and they're doing amazing. And recently, a number of months ago, I think it was, actually summer of 2022 in August, Visa was denied their motion to dismiss the case by a federal judge in California. So the judge handed down this damning decision, and the words that he used was Visa gave PornHub the tool through which to complete the crime of child trafficking. That was his words. He said, if all of these facts are true, which they are very detailed and they're true facts that are in that complaint, he said this is the case. So that was a pretty big deal.
A couple of questions. You say you got 100 million people a day clicking on there to view this stuff. Now, a certain percentage of them must stumble on these things like a 3-year-old, like you said, a toddler being raped on video. And the certain percentage that stumbles on that, there has to be a percentage of them that get so outraged that they start complaining to Pornhub. But then there should even be a percentage below that picks up the phone and dials 911 and says, I'm looking right now at Pornhub committing a crime. Get down there and seize those servers. What's going on?
Well, one of the things that's happening is that Pornhub, so this was all uncovered again in this incredibly damning discovery published by the court last week on September 1st. And these are internal emails by the CEO, the COO, the VPs of the company, and they're discussing a policy that they had where they only employed one person. Now, think about this. They make hundreds of millions of dollars a year. They had, at one point, 1,200 employees working for MindGeek. They employed one person to review flagged videos. So these would be videos where if somebody is part of the public and they're on the site and they're like, does not look legal, this is concerning, and they flag that video, they had one person reviewing those flags. They had a policy where they wouldn't even put a video in the queue to be reviewed unless it had over 15 flags. That means a victim of child rape on Pornhub could flag their video 15 times and it wouldn't even be put in line to be looked at. The line of flagged videos, so that flagged video backlog, in their own words, they call it a backlog, was over 706,000 videos in the backlog. Now, this person was working 5 days a week, taking the weekends off, working 8 hours a day only, right? So imagine that system that was set up. Now, not only that, but these emails and depositions confirm something that we already knew, but then it's confirmed in the depositions that they actually were not reporting any known child sexual abuse to authorities for over 13 years. So from 2007, when the site was founded, all the way until April of 2020, after Trafficking Hub movement went viral to expose them, they were not reporting child sexual abuse that they knew about to authorities. Now, this is all confirmed in parliamentary testimony and depositions. There's no question about this at this point. It's illegal in Canada. It's a crime not to report child sexual abuse. It carries a 14-year prison sentence if you don't do it. They were not doing that. So they were essentially hiding child sexual abuse from authorities. Now imagine this. How many children over the last 13 years could have been rescued out of situations of, being enslaved to be used in child sexual abuse videos that are monetized online, who are just being tortured and abused? And because Pornhub's hiding this content because they just don't want their reputation damaged, they don't want anybody to know about this, they were hiding it. And so those kids went, they could have had help, right? It could have been reported. Police could have gone on these cases, but they didn't because they just pushed it under the rug in an intentional way. It was a company practice that they were not reporting child sexual abuse for that long. And that's just unacceptable. It's just unbelievable.
Well, just imagine if they're employing one guy to check the flagging, right, to police these flags. Some of these porn companies that are uploading, they're competing with each other. They probably have more than one guy flagging other people, just to try and shut down the competitors.
I mean, it's almost meaningless.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they employed one person so they could say that they have some system going on, but it's not a real effort. It's not a real effort to, at the same time, so let's just stack up the facts, okay? First of all, they have a policy where you do not verify the age or the consent of the people in the homemade sex videos that are uploaded from around the world to this website. Second, you employ, and this is also uncovered, right? This is factually accurate and uncovered. They had 30 moderators for all of MindGeek's PornTube sites. So that's just not Pornhub. That's Pornhub, YouPorn, Tube8, ExtremeTube, XTube, all these tubes. Okay, Pornhub being the primary one. 30 working 10 per shift, 8-hour shift. They were reviewing about 1,000 on average videos per shift. If they reviewed less than 700, they were reprimanded by management. Some of the more experienced were skipping through with the sound off 2,000 videos per 8-hour shift. So that was their moderation practice. Then as far as flagged content, right, when there would be illegal content that easily got through with that process, then they only had one person reviewing that, right, with a backlog of almost 1 million flagged videos. Then on top of that, it also shows in these emails that they hadn't been employing any industry standard technology tools to detect and remove child sexual abuse from the site either until 2020 after they were exposed by Trafficking Hub. So stack up all of that, right? And then that they weren't reporting to authorities, they were hiding it. And all that while, it was all commercialized and earning profit for them. And this was intentional policy. So what does that mean?
Has there been one criminal investigation that's come about because someone's seen illegal porn or illegal rape content on these free sites?
So I am not aware that there's been a criminal prosecution investigation. Are you talking about into the site and the owner?
No, I'm talking about.
Or are you talking to people?
I'm talking about even the police will investigate if they see an image of child pornography. They'll investigate that. They'll look at the bedspread and the sheets and say, "Oh, that's from Disneyland." And they really do thorough investigations on this kind of stuff. So that if they've got all this kind of material here, has there been
there's
one?
There's people in jail.
Oh,
there's people in prison who are the uploaders. So we have numerous cases of the individuals who filmed and uploaded this content are in prison. I'll give one example. So there was a man named Rocky Shea Franklin, and he was in Alabama, and he drugged and he overpowered and he raped multiple times a 12-year-old boy. He filmed those assaults, and he uploaded 23 of those videos to Pornhub with titles that indicated that this was child abuse, like Uncle Secret and Taking Teen Virginity, and I won't say the other ones because they're very, very disturbing.
Right.
But they had titles that indicated that it was abuse. And these videos, so he was actually discovered by police who arrested him. They then reached out and demanded these videos be removed from PornHub, and they were ignored multiple times by PornHub. So those videos ended up staying on the site for 7 months, even though police had reached out. They were viewed hundreds of thousands of times. They were downloaded, ensuring the boy's trauma will live online forever. Now, Rocky Shea Franklin was sentenced to 40 years in prison for what he did. And the boy and his mother are now suing PornHub in Alabama. So that's an example of somebody who had done this and actually is behind bars for doing it.
And yet, the same exact films that were likely used as evidence against this guy to put him in prison is now for sale on PornHub.
Yeah, it was for sale on PornHub.
It probably still is. How do we know? How do we know?
Yeah, I mean, you actually, that's true. I mean, the fact is you don't know, and it could be for sale on PornHub
under a different name,
or one of Mikey's other porn tube sites, because they don't verify the age or the consent of those who are in the video. So after all of this exploded in December of 2020 with the New York Times piece and the credit card companies, it was really the credit card companies. They freaked out when they got word that the credit card companies were about to pull the plug. They deleted 10.6 million videos from their website in 24 hours and 40 million images. Financial Times call it one of the biggest takedowns of content in internet history. And then they changed their upload process. So then they finally started to require the uploaders of the videos to show their ID, finally, after 13 years of not doing anything. But still, it's not enough because they don't verify the individuals in the video. So often the uploader is the abuser. Rocky Shea Franklin was actually a verified uploader on PornHub. And he uploaded a 12-year-old victim. And those particular videos were being sold, pay to download content, where PornHub was earning 35% of the profit. Not only from advertising revenue, they weren't just earning profit from that, but also from the direct sale of that content as well. So that's kind of the situation.
Yeah, but then, then the prosecutor who prosecuted Rocky, this fellow Rocky, why wouldn't he then say, okay, and we're also going to prosecute the distributor of this, PornHub?
Well, exactly. That's the question. That's the big question now. I mean, things have gotten to a point, I think now, with the emails that were uncovered last week, where we have evidence of direct knowledge and intention from the owners and the CEO and the COO, the VPs of this company, as to these policies. It's not circumstantial. It's not just, it's not just, this is what's happened, this is on the site. It's kind of gone to a different level now, where if they're made, and I've been calling for a criminal prosecution from day one, from February 10, 2020, when I launched the Trafficking Hub petition, because it says shut down PornHub and hold its executives accountable. And what I mean by that is criminally accountable to the full extent of the law for what's happened, because that's important, because then we set a precedent, we set a deterrent for copycats. I would say, boy, it's profitable for me to sell legal pornography. Why don't I just stick with that instead of intermingling illegal content to make more money? And they won't do it if they see really serious consequences for the decision makers and the owners of the company. So I think it's critical, and I think we have to see a criminal prosecution. If after all of this is exposed, which it has been exposed, and all of this evidence and all of these victims is exposed, and there's not a criminal prosecution, I just think that's going to be a huge miscarriage of justice. Like, this has to result not only in civil penalties where victims are paid enormous amounts of money by the company, but we need to see criminal accountability as well.
Now, I know my audience, I know by now they're all upset. They're all, I don't want to use the word, but you know the word. They're all off, they're peed off, okay? And they want to know what to do now, okay? So we're speaking to Laila Mickelwait, LAILA So right away you can start by following her on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Then there's a couple of groups you can start to join and check out. justicedefensefund.org. Now, Laila, let's just start with justicedefensefund.org. What is the purpose there? What can people do? Why would people want to go there and support that group?
So Justice Defense Fund is an organization that I founded, and our mission statement is to empower victims of sex trafficking, child sexual abuse, and other forms of non-consensual criminal online content to pursue justice, and as well to change.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
Change policy that enables this abuse to continue. So it's not enough to shut down PornHub and hold its executives accountable. We have to do that. But we also need to have policy in place to make sure this never happens again, that there's not another PornHub that pops up to take its place. And that's why a huge emphasis of what we do, in addition to empowering victims to pursue justice, is to be loud enough and to raise enough awareness and education that we can change policy, and not just governmental policy. So specifically, the policy that we need to see enacted is mandatory third-party age and consent verification for every single person and every single user-generated video on a porn site or image on a porn site. Now, that needs to be implemented by governments, but perhaps more important, it needs to be implemented by financial institutions, by the credit card companies, by the processors, because there is no profitable online business without them. So when Visa says, we will not do business with user-generated porn sites unless they verify the age and the consent of those who are in the videos on the site, immediately these sites will comply. Globally, they'll comply. Every single one of them will comply. And so I think that is one of the most important solutions. So Justice Defense Fund, we're aimed at fixing policy to prevent and empowering victims right now to get justice for what's happened to them.
Now, in the regular porn industry, they have that little, do you see that? It's been verified. There's like a badge comes up, and they show you that thing, and the person's had to show their driver's license and stuff like that.
Right.
Right. Now, how can this be? Because what's the difference? This is porn too. How come these videos don't have to have that now?
Well, there was a law that was enacted in 1988, and it's called USC 2257. Right. And what that law is, it's a requirement with criminal penalties if you don't comply, that every person in a porn video has to be identified, that they're overage, and they've consented to be in this content, and the porn producer is required to actually maintain those records in a place that could be checked by the Department of Justice at any time. And so they have complied by that for all these years, since 1988. This has been the standard in the brick and mortar offline porn industry, and it's only been since the tube sites have emerged, and you have now anybody's a pornographer. Anybody with an iPhone has become a pornographer, and they can film in the back of a car, in a park, whatever, in a hotel room, in their apartment. They can film a sex act, be it legal or illegal, and upload it online. And that is the problem, that these laws have not evolved to keep up with the way that porn is now distributed. It's primarily on these free porn tube sites online. It's primarily user-generated. It's mostly not, LA, Porn Valley, brick-and-mortar pornography companies that are producing this content. And that's the problem. Yeah, because even those videos now, you see them even on Twitter, like if you put in the wrong search terms, because these guys, they know all the secret words. Like they those words are out there, you know what I mean? They know what they are. But if you put them in by accident, God forbid, you pull up all kinds of homemade back of the car, all kinds of stuff show up. Now that brings up a whole other thing too, because these code words, these people that are into this stuff, they know these words, right? So wouldn't like who is investigating this? The cops? It's
That's right. There is nobody who cares, right? Shouldn't there be someone else who knows these code words that be looking for this stuff and shutting it down?
Yeah, I mean, there are some, they call them ICAC units, so crimes against children, internet crimes against children units, but they're massively underfunded. Yeah. They can hardly keep up with what's going on offline, and, there's just not enough power. And what's happening is, going after the individuals who've done this, again, it's a whack-a-mole situation. It has to happen, though. I mean, we have to have accountability for the person who's abusing and uploading 100%. But when it comes to distribution and monetization of this content, holding the companies that are profiting from this content accountable is really key. And that's something that's not happened, but needs to happen. So, and there's just not enough police, there's not enough law enforcement.
Well, but Laila, there really is, because when we had problems with the president's son and his laptop, and people talking about a certain injection they didn't want to get, if I would have mentioned those things right now, half my videos would be shut down. So clearly, they can do it. They have the technology to do it.
True. I wouldn't say yes. Yeah. I guess that's a wrong term. There is the capability, there is the funding there. It's just not being allocated to this as a priority. So I think that's where, people's voices are really important. That's where signing a petition like this is critical, because we need to show that there is massive amounts of support and outrage for what's going on, and that there is enough public pressure on the government, on the payment processors to adopt policy to stop this, on the criminal enforcement mechanisms of the government so that they can actually prosecute these things and create deterrence and bring justice to victims. So that's where I think it's really important that people speak out. They do things that, people think that, sharing something online is just kind of weak and unimportant, but it is very important. I mean, when you retweet, when you share, when you like something, when you tell somebody, when you sign a petition, those are the kind of actions that bring enough momentum and bring enough pressure to actually force these institutions to do something. Otherwise, they just don't do it. So that's really critical, and it's something that everybody could pretty easily do.
And one of the things they could do really quickly right now is traffickinghubpetition.com and go there and sign this petition. Maybe if there's 100 million signatures, someone will care. You know what I mean? Like, what does it take at this point,
Well, it's been really helpful because it becomes newsworthy. And that's one of the things that's really helped this campaign and this movement to get where we have, gotten 80% of the site was removed. Credit card processors has, jumped ship. There's no advertiser that's mainstream that will advertise on PornHub anymore. So they used to have Heinz and Unilever and mainstream companies like that. They've lost
Heinz ketchup?
Yes.
Really?
They at one point were Heinz, Unilever were advertising on PornHub. They stopped, but so they cannot get at this point. They can't get any mainstream advertisers. Yeah. They can't even get Astroglide, KY Jelly. They won't even advertise on PornHub. Right. They have, so mainstream companies will not advertise on the site because of the public, the way that they've been publicly exposed. And so what I'm saying is, the petition, as it grows, it became newsworthy.
Yeah.
When when a petition has 10,000 signatures, it's kind of like, so what? When it has 2 million signatures, suddenly it's newsworthy, and then, it gets reported, and then these companies get shamed for actually having their ads on that site, or payment processors for processing those transactions and things like that. So that's where you get the traction.
Okay, now, when I started doing this show 10 years ago, and I started shedding some light on things like Franklin Cover-Up, which was like a sex trafficking thing going on in Washington, involved young boys and stuff. Many stations said, "Hey Ed, I don't want to carry that information. We don't want to touch that topic. It's a disgusting topic. It's off color. No one wants to talk about it." But now it's an extremely popular topic, where some people are obsessed with this pedophile and pedophilia and all. And we've even reached a point where there's such a bizarre outrage that people will show up with guns to drag queen story times and things like that. And when they even destroyed an electric power point, to shut down the power to a drag queen meeting. Militants with machine guns. Okay. So things have kind of the pendulum has swung quite the way, okay, on this topic for these people out there. So now these people out there that are obsessed with this topic and obsessed with everything even closely related to it, are you getting any kind of support from them?
So people, are you talking about kind of like extreme?
Yeah, like
people kind of on
these people that are obsessed with this topic 24 hours a day. That's all they talk about on YouTube, on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. This is all they talk about now. Are they lifting a finger to do anything about this?
If this is all they talk about, I imagine, if this gets enough attention, they'll include this kind of lumped in with anything else they're outraged about. But what I find really encouraging is that people who really otherwise are not paying attention to this issue at all are suddenly actually speaking out against it. In fact, even the most encouraging things, some of the most encouraging things I've seen are people in the porn industry that are actually speaking out about this. And it's happened a number of times. Someone who was formerly a porn performer on PornHub just did a video a couple of days ago speaking out, saying, they deleting their content and speaking out and standing up against this. And what I really appreciated about this movement particularly is that it's included everybody. So we've seen right and left, and we've seen religious and atheists and people who are pro-porn and anti-porn all agreeing that this is completely wrong and something has to happen to stop it. And so I think that's also some of the power behind what's happened so far to hold the company accountable, but we haven't gone far enough. But I think that this is something where, we can see people across the spectrum getting engaged.
Oh, okay. No, that's what I was going to say. But now, what about your average guy? All right, normal person. They have no interest in child pornography or seeing people being raped and abused and stuff like that. But they do enjoy pornography, right? Are there other? And they don't know that PornHub is involved in all this. And plus, there's so many different names of these different companies. Are there safe, legit places they could go to that if they want to support with their porn dollar and then support a company that's not supporting this kind of activity?
Well, I think that the important thing to look out for if you're a consumer of this kind of content is what are the policies that are in place to verify that those in those videos are consenting adults, and especially, it's dangerous when you come to user-generated content to be really focused on that. So at this point, I think probably the safest content for that is kind of the traditionally produced by a company that is more of the old school, right? The where they have to abide by the law that I mentioned to you, USC 2257, for producers that are companies that are having to, in some cases, do a video before they film that, who this is, that I've consented to this scene, that, all of that they do. Even in those cases, we know lots of stories where there's been coerced consent. We know that happens. Mm-hmm. But as far as, the likelihood of coming across illegal, non-consensual content in that kind of site that is, kind of the more traditional companies that produce this content is way lower than if you're on a PornTube site like PornHub or YouPorn or Tube8 or any of those sites. So I think that's what you can look out for. Yeah,
I guess. But this is the first stuff that comes up, Now,
it is, and it's interesting because it's a race for Google search results. So, that's one of the things that is really important to these PornTube sites, and one of the reasons why they're so obsessed with having incredible amounts of content on the site, no matter where it comes from. or what it contains. They want content on these tube sites because what they're obsessed with is Google search results.
Right.
So that when you type anything into the search result with the word porn, they're the first ones that come up, and then you have like 25 results from that site before you can even get to something else. And that's why one of the things that was uncovered in this whole campaign movement to hold them accountable was the fact that when they would be forced to remove child sexual abuse from the site by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children or the FBI, when they were forced to remove that content, what we found was that they were leaving the views, the comments, the titles, the tags, the URLs live on the site. So you would just see a black box that said removed at the request of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But then you'd have all the data, you'd have everything there so that it's still able to be picked up in Google search results, and then somebody will come to this, previous child sexual abuse video. It won't be there, but then they'll have
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
Lots of recommendations for other things that you can watch that are similar. And then they drive you, and they get ad impressions and things like that, which they're interested in. So
right, yeah, they still profit from the traffic. They're still making money from the traffic.
Exactly.
Oh man, now what?
It's about traffic.
But this brings up a good point, because now Google could easily, because if you type in child pornography, I think if you do it the first time a warning comes up, or the second time a warning comes up, to that effect, they know you're doing it, all right? Because they change it somehow, right? So now, so why can't we put pressure on Google and say, hey, look at these companies, look what they're doing?
We do. We should. And we need to. So just like we put pressure on Visa and MasterCard to say, look, you're enablers. You are enabling this to happen. They're profitable because of you, and you need to stop. It is the same with Google, when they need to have pressure to say, and they need a policy to say, we're not going to index, we're not going to bring up search results for porn tube sites that are not verifying the age and the consent of those who are in the video. So just like the other enablers, just like Visa and MasterCard need to do that, Google needs to do that, and they can do that. And if they did do that, you would see all of these user-generated porn sites fall in line quickly to adjust the way that they do business.
But I'll tell you this, I don't know if we discussed this the last time you were on the show, but I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, I was tipped off to this situation on regular YouTube, the regular YouTube that everybody uses, not a porn YouTube, but just the regular YouTube, that there were videos of little kids on there the kids were clothed, but obviously it was attracting perverts, because when you looked at the comments, they were all talking about playing with them, all kinds of stuff, there were obscene comments of the viewers of this stuff, and you had to prove you were over 18 to watch this video of an 8-year-old. Okay, so so now there's no question Google knows what's going on with that. Okay, and they didn't do Google and YouTube know what's going on with that, and they didn't do anything about that. And some of those videos had like millions of hits. I think it was like 7 Sisters or something like that. It was, and then it turned out that the guys who ran it were involved in trafficking. So much of this that we're looking at here is complicit from the top, from all these folks. But the plan is,
I think there's a resistance, because these companies are afraid that if they do it for one instance, they're going to have to do it for something else, and for another thing and another thing and another thing. But that's not really an excuse, because there is no question when it comes to film, like that's a felony, that's contraband to have child sexual abuse material, where you have, previously called child pornography, now it's called CSAM, which is child sexual abuse material, but that's contraband. That, you can't possess it, you can't distribute it, you can't advertise it, and there shouldn't be support and enabling for sites that are doing that. So I think that it's a matter of just continuing to highlight the issue and put pressure on those companies to, in essence, they have to be kind of forced to do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen voluntarily. We know that for sure. It's not going to happen voluntarily. It has to be forced one way or another for them to do anything.
Yeah. YouTube has taken down my channel several times over the past 10 years for things like I'm bullying Jeffrey Epstein, okay? Stuff like that. So it's not like they can't do it or there's an uproar when they do it. They can take stuff down or questioning the election results, things. They can take it down. They're doing it all over the place, but for some reason, there's certain content they're just giving a blank check to these characters. Now, Laila Mickelwait, we have about 5 minutes left, man. So what do you want to focus on in this last 5 minutes? 4 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to focus on just talking about, you make sure we cover everything that was recently uncovered in this legal discovery in the California child sex trafficking case, so that the listeners and anyone else, if they share this, they can be fully informed as to what the facts are and if they speak about this topic. So, one of the other things, besides the fact that they were discussing this policy where they had only one person reviewing flagged videos 5 days a week with a backlog of flagged videos that was 706,000 videos, that they were hiding child sexual abuse material from authorities for over 13 years until they were globally exposed and shamed for being a crime scene of a website. But there's also messages that are exchanges between employees speaking about management. And one of the things that they say is that management, and this is a quote, management doesn't want the rules enforced as written. So it seems that it was pretty clear to those who worked at the company that management had rules written on paper by their lawyers to make it appear to the public that they would take action against criminal content, but inside the company, it was known that they didn't actually want those rules enforced. That's pretty serious. The other thing is that they are shown in these exchanges that were published by the court that they said that they were instructed to stop sending reports to management about child sexual abuse that they were finding on the site. So at some point when this was all kind of reaching a point of putting pressure on them and they were getting exposed, it sounds like management was saying, stop making us aware so we can claim that we don't know. Right. When they did know. And so that, that was also exposed in this discovery. So those are important facts that need to be known. Yeah, well, part of their own defense would be, hey, we didn't know it was there. So it looks like a backfiring thing. When you try and get them to stop doing it, then they do even less. Just now, if people want to read this discovery and these emails and stuff like that, which one of your websites would they go to? You can go to my Twitter. I've been posting them. Okay. I got them from the court document system called Pacer, but you have to have a subscription in order to access that. So I've been posting them on my Twitter at Laila Mickelwait, and you can see it there, and you can see lots of stories about their victims and what's happened and to them, the lawsuits, and get updates on how things are progressing. Well, I've been looking at the what's this thing? The petition one, the TraffickingHubPetition.com. Right, and when you look at it, you just about every 1 second somebody else signs it. That is kind of encouraging. Well, good. It is kind of encouraging to watch those numbers go up. Hopefully, something happens out of that. It's Laila Mickelwait. It was Laila Laila Mickelwait, Mickelwait, and then that's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Follow her there. The more people follow her, the better stuff happens too. But then also too, then justicedefensefund.org. I mean, throw that in your signature line. Get people to donate over there. And then the petition site, the traffickinghubpetition.com. Those are the main ones. But there's all kinds of content on her link tree. If you go to Laila Mickelwait on Twitter. Laila, thank you so much, man. Anything we can do to help out, just let me know. I would. This is just so frustrating. Well, thanks for shining a light on it.
Yeah.
And, be encouraged because we are making progress. It's slow progress, but things are definitely moving since last time we spoke in 2020. A lot has happened. So thank you for being one of the people who's paying attention and caring about this and shining a light on it, because that's really important.
It's just amazing because if you polled 100 people and say, hey, would you like to do something to stop child rape? They'd all, 99% would say, oh, yeah, of course, let's do it. But, and here's right in front of our plenty of solutions, man, to stop this. Just for some reason, there's very powerful forces on the other side that seem to want this to continue.
Yeah, well, we need to just keep getting the momentum and continue and just keep hammering it and not stop.
I got you. Laila Mickelwait, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities. Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.